thanks for tuning in. Welcome to part 2 of Dan fixing up this tire machine, where we go from this to this. Let's see how it went. Hey Dan, run that intro.
Hey Gearheads, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to part 2 of the Coates Tire Machine rebuild. If you didn't see part 1, go check out that link up there. But if you did, then you know that thing is all taken apart, the top half of it anyway. And we have the basket and the cylinder here that we need to put new seals in and put the thing back together and start changing some tires. So let's get right to it. So now that we got this basket off, we can go ahead and start cleaning this up. Just want to clean the dirt and grease and grime off of it. There's a bunch over here on the arm, and there's even like these little cubbies down in here where there's a bunch of wheel weights and stuff, so I want to clean that out. Also saw online another guy had taken his air line and kind of mounted it to the side there instead of having it just hanging around, so we're going to do that. And if you've seen my episodes before, you know, what do we do when we have something that's dirty and greasy and grimy and we need to clean it? We reach out to our friends at Super Clean, and we get some stuff that's going to help us out. Let's check it out. Let's see what we got here. So we have the Super Clean Original Degreaser, which dissolves grease and grime. It's perfect for garage or household use. And we have the aerosol can, which has the same cleaning and degreasing formula as the original Super Clean, but it's got a precision spray nozzle, and it sticks to vertical surfaces. Now, I've already done a full video on these guys. They're biodegradable, they're phosphate and bleach free, they work really well. And they have a full range of products to help you with whatever you're trying to clean up. And you can get it at all of these places. And you get a sticker. We love stickers. So, the best part of this is not its cleaning. The best part is they want to do a giveaway with me. So, I was trying to think of what we can do. Why don't you put down in the comments what your dirty project is, and then maybe Ashley and I will do some random selection, and we'll pick a winner, and you're going to get some Super Clean for yourself to check out. But for now, let's get into the messes we need to clean. Alright, I got a lot of work done. I got this all cleaned out, all the gaskets missing. I don't know if I mentioned there was one missing out of here, so that's probably why it leaks so much. Everything else is looking good on this guy. I got this base part cleaned up pretty well. I also took each one of these off of these hoses. They're just like push and release. So I took these off and cleaned them all up in here. Now if I was restoring this thing, I'd probably really prep these and paint them. I'm probably just going to put it back together the way it is because I don't really want to get into all that. I really want to just start mounting and dismounting tires. Cleaned up these threads. I just got to clean the side of this body and the inside, and I did get the gaskets for this, so we're going to go ahead and start putting it back together. I do need to replace those two hoses, so we have to get those, but that shouldn't be a big deal. I can get those at advance. As I mentioned when I was working on the fuel lines with the Chevelle, if you're doing fuel lines or air lines, anything like that, you want to make sure they're the high pressure lines that have the fiber in them. Otherwise, you know, air hoses, vacuum hoses, normal things, you can just use the regular rubber. But we're going to make sure we use the right ones. Now you can see this had the orange paint on it before. It kind of looks like Chevy orange. I like it, but again, I'm not restoring this right now. I'm just trying to make it work. So just a little bit of spray and cleaner. I feel like when something's clean, it just works better. So we're just going to get this back down to where it is, and then, or where it was, and then I think it'll just work better and everything will be smoother. And then, like I said, maybe in the future I'll go ahead and repaint the whole thing, but at least we'll get all this dirt and grime off of it. That'll give us a better surface to paint later. Now with the rim plate table mound, I don't know what the heck this thing is called, but I'm just basically sanding it down and cleaning it off. Again, we do have some bare metal here, so I might actually hit this with some paint just to protect it. Not trying to get any of this down to bare metal, but in spots like this where you can see bare metal, we probably need to protect that so it doesn't rust. Alright, let's see how many wheel weights we can get out of here. What? Alright, so we got a pretty good haul. Of course, a lot of the old school wheel weights. There was one newer wheel weight in here I saw, one of the stick-on ones. And of course we have some tire valves that were pulled off, and caps, and some garbage. But now it's all cleaned out, and that makes me happy. There is actually a drain down there too. You see that little slit in the middle? So stuff can clean out of there. So just another thing you want to do, and I've literally scratched the surface to clean the top of this thing. Alright, I got the rotary coupling assembly all the O-rings out of it and cleaned up as much as I can. We got some Super Lube O-ring silicone grease. I'm assuming it's specific to O-rings. It does say on here pneumatic systems, so we should be good there. And we got a box of goodies that should be all of the O-rings that we need, including the piston set with this guy. That's the one that was bad in there. These are the standard O-rings, and well, I guess that's all the O-rings. So let's go ahead and get these installed. I don't see the big one in here though. I only see little ones, unless the big ones, oh, the big ones are in here. Okay, so there's two big ones in here, which I believe I need for that. I think we need three big ones. So I'm gonna have to write the company and say, hey, see how this is supposed to come with these. Not there. So we're going to have to check on that, unless one of these is doubled over. Maybe I should open it up before I start assuming. Hang on. Okay, got scissors. Let's see. Maybe they just doubled it over really well. Let's see. So we got one little one, two. I think it only had three before. It's supposed to have four. Oh no, here's the big one. Oh, yeah, so I guess it only does have three. So as you can see, there's 5 channels, but 2 of them have the air that comes in. So I guess just every other one gets an O-ring, and then the big one goes up here. So I'm going to double check that with some assembly manuals I have to make sure that's what it is. And then we'll go ahead and coat these guys and get them in. Alright, it's time to put this thing together. I've been through a couple of other projects, some other videos, hopefully you've seen them. But we're going to continue on and get these O-rings in here. And I got this O-ring silicone lubricant, and I just watched some YouTube videos on how to apply it, so we know we're going to do it right. So I'm going to put some paper towels down here. You know I love these gloves, but these are not the right ones for the job. When doing particular stuff like this, you got to be able to feel what you're doing. So I'm going to put these on, and they're probably going to be too big for me, but let's see how it goes. Here's a tip when using these gloves. If you blow in them right before you put your hand in, it helps open it up so you can get in there. These gloves are great. Hopefully this stuff won't deteriorate them. It's this is silicone, and it's not petroleum based, is what I've read on everything. They say petroleum is bad, like don't use Vaseline or anything, because it will make these expand and it will destroy them. So I guess we'll start here, and we'll put 2 aside and we'll work with 1. So we're going to open this up, and it's got no seal on it. So we're just going to take a little bit, and the idea is basically between your thumb and forefinger, you want to coat the entire surface of the O-ring. Not too much, but not too little. Don't you love when people say that? They're like, don't use too much, but don't use too little. Well, I'm watching you to learn that, so just tell me how much to use. So obviously it's not really a formula to this. You want to make sure that it's coated completely. Okay, camera battery died. I'm actually in the market for a new camera, and I found one. So if anybody wants to donate towards a new DansgarageNC camera so I can keep making excellent, wonderful footage for you guys to enjoy, then you can make a donation to, I think I have PayPal set up on my homepage or something. So we're going to just go ahead and lay this gasket O-ring. I guess it is a gasket, but it's an O-ring. So we're going to lay it right in there, and that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and do these other 2, and then I will cut to the big one when we get to that. Okay, I'm running out of fingers that aren't covered in silicone, but if you can see that, you can see we got the 3 O-rings where they need to be. As I stated in the beginning, I thought there was supposed to be 4, and then I was confused about 5, but it looks like there's 5 spaces, but 2 are for the air to go in, and then depending on which pedal you're pushing is going to make the claws open or close. This big one on the back, as we know, is for the air blaster. So with that all taken care of and figured out, we're going to go ahead and grab the big one here, which is going to go on the top, and we'll just squirt a little bit. If you're following along on doing this yourself and wondering how much to use, I still have no idea. We're just going to coat every surface all the way around it. If you need a little more, put a little more. I would say there's probably better to have a little bit more than a little bit less. But I'm not a professional, so. And then we're just going to go ahead and seat this in here, and then we should be good to go. So that is all set there. So make sure it's nicely coated on the inside. Alright, so I'm going to take these gloves off. I'm going to bring the basket up here. We're going to sand it down a little bit, make sure it's cleaned up. I might put a little bit of this stuff on that as well, and then we'll put this down on that. And then I think we can put it back on the machine. Okay, got that moved out of the way. Got my heavy duty gloves. We're going to grab the basket and bring it up here. Now keep in mind I kept the clamps on here. You do not have to do that. Now I know it's really easy to take them off, but honestly, I'm kind of concerned I would put them on wrong, even though there probably isn't wrong. So, this is pretty much cleaned up. I think I'm just going to hit it with, what do I have, 320 sandpaper, just to make sure there's no burrs and everything is good. And then I'm going to hit some of the silicone on all these surfaces, and then we'll go ahead and take this guy and plop it on here, and then we'll bring it over to the machine and put it on. I think I read somewhere you have to torque the bolt down to like, I'm going to have to check, 240 foot-pounds or something like that. It's got pretty big grooves on it, so I don't think it's really the torque that holds it from spinning. It's the groove, so whatever. But let me get some sandpaper, and we'll get that sucker on. Okay, got a new pair of gloves. The thing I hate about these is they're not really reusable. I can't take them off and put them on again. So I'm just going to make sure that there's no burrs or anything on here. This is cleaned as much as it should be / can be. And the machine is ready to take it back on, and I think we'll be in good shape. We want to just make sure all the air passageways that are in here are all clean, so maybe we'll hit those with some compressed air just to clean them up, and then we'll hit this with some silicone, and we should be good to go. Right? Right. We sanded this down, and I'm saying this again in case I can't use the shot of me sanding it down because it was too noisy, but I used some sandpaper on this, and I'm just going to wipe it down. This thing is still rocking around because remember I left one of the bolts in it, so I knew where it went. Honestly, I don't think it matters which direction this thing goes in, but what does matter is having this silicone kind of protect everything. So I'm going to put a light coat of silicone kind of around this whole thing, and with the silicone on the O-rings, I think that should make sure that this thing is going to work flawlessly. Hopefully this will also keep junk out of here, and some of this may get blown through the lines. I don't think this outside is even a part of it, but we got this all lubed, so I'm going to go ahead and take this and plop it on here. Now you want to make sure that you're not catching any of these O-rings when you're putting it on. So as we took it off very gently, we're going to go ahead and put it on very gently, and it should pop on the same way it popped off, which that feels like it did. And now this obviously is moving a lot better with all these all this lubrication on it. Now if you recall, this stays stationary on the machine because the hoses are coming in, and then the basket rotates around it depending on which way the air goes in. So this actually feels pretty tight. Oh, no, maybe it just went down. So I don't know if you remember when I took it apart, this was like rolling around like nobody's business. So as you can hear, it doesn't really sound like it's happy. maybe that's good that it's tight because we don't want air to leak. So we're going to hope that's right. All right, so we're going to get this over to the machine, and this is going to go down on that. We'll put these hoses on and this hose, and then we can go ahead and move on to the table. All right, so this is, again, would be easier if you didn't have all these in the way, but I opted to leave them on. So we move them out of the way, and then this should slide right on. You just basically line up the gears. And we'll get to the mounting of this in a minute. And we're just going to slide this over a little bit. And then it might make sense to kind of hook these lines up as you're going down. But unless you're an octopus and have all those hands, we're just going to have to figure it out. So I'm going to make sure these hoses are hooked up, 2 on the front, 1 on the back. And then we'll go ahead and put the bolt in and get this basket locked down. Here's a little halftime show. So I did realize that when this is tightened down, this fits into a groove there, so that'll keep this from moving when this is moving. I went ahead and put these hoses on. As I said, I made these opposite, so you can tighten this one from this side, tighten this one from this side over here, and I think that'll be better, so that way you're not kind of fighting yourself. We still have to put these hoses in, but I also did the one in the back. And that similarly just goes in the back. There's a little channel to keep this from moving, and you just have this clamp here, and that's pretty much it. So I kind of forgot, I probably should have put some Never Sees on that, but hopefully I'll never have to take this off again. Now we have the washer, and the washer, you can see it looks like a little castle nut. So it's got these little notches, and those need to go down, and they need to go on the basket, and that's what holds it down and puts the tension on it. And then we'll go ahead and put the bolt on. And the bolt, I read in their paperwork, has to be torqued to 125. So we'll put that down and just make sure that when it does go down all the way, that the notches on the collar are where they need to be, and the hoses are forward and backward. We should be good. All right, once that's done, I want to put that cap back on, keep dust and dirt and grime out of there. And that is that. All right, moving on to the cylinder. So we have this up here. We have the new gaskets, the new piston. So we got the super lube, and let's go ahead and put it back together. So I was able to find a downloadable program that had a breakdown of all the parts, a lot of the information, as well as torque specs and things like that. And this is really handy for what we're doing. So tabletop cylinder, that's us over here. And then this was really useful for figuring out what the torque needed to be on the basket, torque to 175. It also tells you where to apply grease. So obviously up here, but that's already together. So we'll just kind of squirt that a little bit. It does say to grease the tabletop as well for where the sliders go for the rim clamps. So we'll do that too. But for now, we are going to be concentrating on this. Got my medical inspection gloves on, and looking at all the parts, as you should do, I realized there's 2 seals on here, and I was like, that's not for me. And then I realized that there is a split in there. So this big one is going to go in the back here, like that, and then this one is going to go on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You can see that split in there. So we'll pick this guy out. So I'll just kind of grab that out of there, and let me give that a little wipe. So this is going to go in just like the other one came out. And basically just push it in here until it catches the groove. That's pretty much it on that. We will grease this before we put the whole thing back together. And then this one is going to go in just like this. Just kind of squeeze it in there. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to grease it first. And we'll open up our grease. And we'll go ahead and basically all of the rubber seals, you want to give them a healthy dose of grease. That'll keep them flexible, keep them from seizing up, drying up, all that stuff. And after you do that, your hands are all greasy and you can't pick up the part, but we'll see what we can do. So this is just going to go in here like this. And once it's in that groove, it should be happy, but of course to get it in here, just got to kind of get it to squeeze in. And once it gets all the way in, it should be happy. And now that's got a little lubrication on the inside. Since we have some on our finger, we'll hit that inner piece too. And then third one here is going to be this O-ring. Once you get 2 of these O-rings, we'll take a little bit of grease and then just kind of run it around through your fingers. Now you should look online for other information, because I'm not an expert and this is the first one I'm doing, but I did a lot of research on how to grease things and whatever. So this just kind of goes right around here. And again, that'll fit right in the channel. And this one's all set to go. And then we just have the other one. Get my greasy fingers all over this tube also, so we'll have to clean that up, but that's okay. So we're just going to grease this one and send it through. Just kind of run it around, run it through, and then same thing, just kind of lip it on the bottom and then just follow it around, and there we go, and that's all set. So that's for that. This little ring you don't need unless you're working on the other, the one for the top, for the bead breaker. That's what this one is for, so we do not need that since we're working on this cylinder. Other than that, I just want to make sure that the washer is on the outside, and this is going to be on the end of this. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if I get this all greasy because this is going to be inside anyway. So we'll just take this off, and see, one side is rubber, one side is washer, so the washer goes on the outside. And we're just going to press that on there. And make sure it doesn't mess up the threads. This is going to go till it's basically snug in here. You don't have any gap in there. And then this just goes here. And this we do have to torque to 40 foot-pounds. So there is a spot on the bottom of the shaft that has 2 flat spots, so you can put that in a vise or you can put a wrench on that or whatever. That will help you to tighten this, which needs to be torqued to this doesn't say. It's probably on the other page. Oh wait, oh sorry. So this is going to be 1/4 to a 1/2 turn loose. So again, this is not going to be torqued down. It's just meant to hold the rim clamp. So this one's not torqued, but you do want to hold this, and you got to torque this one down. So I'm going to go ahead and torque this to, what did I say, 40 foot-pounds, and come right back. All right, so I got that torqued down. This is going to be a joint effort between the gloves. So this one is going to be using all the wet stuff. This one's going to do the dry stuff. So I got these figured out how they need to go on. So I'm going to go ahead and grease this up, grease the inside of this. I'll put the plunger in here, and then we'll put the ends together, and we got the nuts and bolts over there. I may switch gloves again after that, so who knows. But we're going to start by kind of greasing the inside of this. And I'm going to kind of give a lot to this because we definitely want the piston plunger to really sit well in here and be very happy. Alright, so we're going to grease this up real nice also. Make sure it's got all the protection it needs. I'm going to do the sides also, just for protection. Make sure it's going to stay pliable and rubbery, because this basically moves every time you clamp a rim on or take a rim off. So, alright, with that done, I'm going to see if we can do this with one hand. I did see this. I think I posted this in the other video too. It says clamping cylinder, tighten nuts snug, and then loosen 3/4 of a turn. They must not be tight. So remember that. Don't make this too tight. Let me get this glove off. And we'll go to all mechanical gloves. So these have to sit a certain way too. So I actually did go back and look at my first video to see how they go on. So this is going to slide right on the cylinder here. And alright, so now we got this on here. Feels nice and snug. Watching my original video, I know that this piece goes up and the hose is at the back. Now here, we do have to push it in around the O-ring, so you definitely want to just make sure you're giving everything a little bit of rotation as you put it together. Make sure it's all the way in. That's not going to help because I'm trying to push up against this. Oh, I could do this. So let me go ahead and make sure this is down all the way. There we go. So that's nice and snug. And then this one is going to go the other way. So you can see these are at the top of each one. That's, I believe, for the clamps to hold them from going one way or the other. So this, same thing, we're just going to kind of rotate it around, push it gently. You definitely don't want to mar this guy up or cut it in any way. A little bit of pressure. Again, rotate it, make sure it's going to be sealed all the way. All right. So now okay. So everything is press fit. I'm just going to double check to make sure that it's all snug, which it is. We're going to double check and make sure that these points are at the top, which is good. And then we're going to go ahead and take our nuts and bolts and we're going to put them in and snug them and then turn back 3/4 of a turn. Alright, I had to adjust this because nobody told me that I had my decal like right under the bolt, so I like things to make sense. So we did that, and I did verify by a still shot in the first video taking it apart, that this is the way it goes. So basically just know that these 2 points go up. This one does actually ride on the clamp. There's those 2 positions. It goes the other way. This one obviously doesn't, only when it's in. When it's out, the piston's going to be out here. So it goes like this, and what I can do is I can hook up these air hoses now, and then I have to put the tabletop back on and put 2 of these on while I'm doing that. So I'll just let the video roll, maybe put some music on and you can laugh at that. Alright, so I got this all ready to go. And we do need to make sure that these arms are all at least separated into each of the basket openings. This is obviously off from where it needs to be, but that's, I'll show you why I did that in a minute. So now we have these points. Where's the other one? And I did, I put some of the O-ring grease just right along this channel and on the inside. When this is down, I'll go ahead and put it on the tops too. Actually, I'm going to put it on the tops now because we do have to put 2 of these clamps on in order to rotate it to get them on the piston. So this one I believe is the most important, but let me get that. So basically just taking a little bit of grease and putting it right on this channel here. You go on the insides too. So you can see the difference in these. The 2 sliders don't have this back. These are the 2 that go on the piston. So those are the ones that we need to make sure that we slide in here before this goes in the right place, because they don't have that much flexibility. And this one is going to go here. And this one also, because it's on the end, I do need to put this bolt in first because there's not enough clearance at the back of the piston. The rest of them, you do have clearance to put the bolt in from the bottom. And I need to get this one started on here as well, and then we can slide this into place. So that is there. Oh, that's not happy. There we go. So now as we're sliding this in, we have to keep in mind where these arms are, because there's an arm in each basket that goes to each corner. So we need to make sure the bolt comes through here and then up through here, and then this will go on the top. So as this is all sliding around, we'll slide the bolt in first. And then can adjust that, make sure that bolt is seated all the way down. This does have this little pin that holds it from rotating out of the way. So we can get this started. Once it's snug, you can tighten it later with a wrench. So we'll leave that like that. And then we can get this one in and on here as well with the bolt. So there's a good angle for you to see what we're doing here. So we can slide this one up a little bit. There we go. And just enough to get the piston through that, and we can put the nut on the back. So I had to get a new nut because I guess I lost one. Now for this back portion, you see we said there was a hole in here and there's a pin locator at the top of the piston. So I want to make sure that is set before you tighten this up. You shouldn't have any gap here, and that's to keep the cylinder from rotating, because if it rotated, that would be bad. And then we're just going to tighten this down here. Let's just make it snug. Didn't say anything about a torque on that, so we're not going to worry about it. And then this front one is just going to slide. Make sure your other arms are where they need to be. Actually, maybe pull these out. Oh, no, gotta push them in. All right. So push that in, and then this is just going to get snugged on here. Now I was able to move this hose a little bit so it's not chafing on the piston, because that did seem like it was an issue. So I'll go ahead and get this set, and then we'll put the other two arms on and we'll lock those in to these other two. And then I think we'll be in good shape to power it up and see how we're doing. Oh yeah, I have to bolt that down too, I guess. So, I don't think it matters which order I do this in. These, like I said, these had enough... Oh no! Yay! These had enough play that I was able to take them off and put them back on. So I just need a bolt. And the top claw. These have enough room to get in here with a socket or a wrench, so I'm not too worried about putting these on later. Like I said, we still do need to tighten up the other ones. This is not getting located. There we go. Now it's up. So we can go ahead and tighten that. Do you tighten it up or tighten it down? Those are the things that confuse me about stuff. The other arm, or rim clamp, is over here. Get that set. Alright, now, before we can tighten any of these up, we need to put the bolts down in the table that's going to move. So, let's get you a new angle. And this should be the last step, is just putting these 4 Allen cap bolts back in. Just got to make sure it's lined up with the basket, which shouldn't be too bad. And I'm going to have to check that paperwork and see if these have a torque spec on them. Let me get the ratchet. Okay, so these do have a torque spec. It's 20 to 35. Not a big range there, but these are holding the wheel to the motor, so I assume that makes sense. Alright, I tightened up these clamps, so By my calculations, I think we're ready to turn on the air compressor. Let's air it up and see if it's still leaking, and if so, where do we need to go next, and make sure that I fix the ones that were broken. Guys, I'm pretty excited, I'm not gonna lie. I just plugged in the air and this thing didn't even turn on. It filled up and that's what I hear. There's a tiny little hiss, so we'll have to see where that's coming from, but let's see if this thing moves around and the clamps go in and out and it doesn't freak out. Alright, so it seems like it's coming out of these fittings. So I think I just gotta tighten these up a little bit. Hey guys, I realized what happened and why it's leaking. When I tightened up the hose clamps, I put the screws on the top and bottom because it was easier to access, but then when I tightened down on the torque and the center bolt on the basket, as you can see, it pushed up on that fitting that goes into the plastic collar. So I'm going to try to pull these hoses off and see if I can rethread that, maybe put some tape on it and hope it works, because if it doesn't, I got to replace that collar, which means I got to take this whole thing apart. So I'll let you know how it goes, but telling you this so you don't do this same mistake and ruin your machine. Oh well. Alright guys, I'm going to call this a win. Let me show you what I did. I basically took off both of the hoses, took out both of the fittings. I kind of re-tapped the holes, keeping in mind they're plastic. I really didn't want to get too heavy duty with it. And then I put some Teflon tape on them. I was able to put them back in, put the hoses back on. I did reorganize the way the clamps are on there, and they're actually holding. I don't hear any leaks down here at the bottom. There is a slight leak in the back. Not really sure where it's coming from. It may be too slight for me to even worry about. I mean, if you remember what this thing sounded like before and what it sounds like now, I think we're ready to go. So everything else tested out okay, so let me go grab a wheel and tire and we'll take the tire off. Now I did put this tire on before, but I think there's too much rust on the rim, so I'm going to pull it back off. This side is still pretty open, but this side is seated, so we're going to go ahead and use the bead breaker first. This hole's not big enough for this machine, but we'll soon have a new place to run it. For now, and there you go, tire is off. I do realize that the rotating assembly likes a lot of air, so I may have to turn up the PSI on my compressor. That's probably why they went to electric on the rotation of the table in the later models, I think. Everything else is still air operated, but other than that, barely had any leaks, so I'm very happy with that. Of course, the operation now is even better. So I would like to thank Super Clean for helping me out cleaning this thing up, and remember to put down in the comments what you have that's super greasy that you need to use Super Clean on, and Ashley and I are going to pick a winner and you're going to get some Super Clean yourself. So other than that, I'm going to make another video on this one of how to take off a tire and put one back on, so that'll be another video you can look out for. And if you got here through just one of the sub videos on taking the table off or resealing the coupler or resealing the piston cylinder, then I thank you for coming to the full video. And either way, however you got here, make sure to subscribe. Check me out on other social medias. Check out those other channels down below. Have a great day, stay positive, and keep on wrenching.